You know how it goes? You were married for years. Life falls into a routine and you think you know your spouse inside out. That was me. Married to Lisa for 8 years, no kids, just us and our suburban life. We had our ups and downs, but I thought we were solid. So, you can imagine my shock when I decided to surprise her with a spontaneous family holiday. I had planned everything meticulously. The destination was a cozy cabin up in the mountains, a place we had always talked about visiting but never got around to. I wanted it to be perfect. I even managed to take a few days off work without Lisa knowing, just to add to the surprise. The day of the surprise, I arrived home early, eager to see her face light up. But as I walked through the door, something felt off. There was an unfamiliar pair of shoes in the hallway. I could hear faint laughter coming from the living room. Curious and a bit uneasy, I made my way towards the sound. What I saw stopped me dead in my tracks. Lisa was sitting on another man-SS lap, her skirt hiked up indecently high, and his hand was boldly fondling her thigh. They were so engrossed in each other that they didn't even notice me standing there, my heart pounding in my chest. Finally, Lisa glanced up, her eyes widening in shock. "Oh, darling, we weren't expecting you," she exclaimed, trying to sound nonchalant but failing miserably. The man, whom I recognized as her co-worker Mark, had the audacity to smirk at me, his hand still on her thigh. I felt a wave of anger and betrayal wash over me. This was the woman I had dedicated my life to, the woman I trusted implicitly. And here she was, shamelessly cheating on me in our own home. But instead of reacting in the moment, I took a deep breath and decided to play it cool. I had to think of a way to turn this situation to my advantage. Revenge would be sweet, and I intended to make it as cruel as possible. I forced a smile, masking the turmoil inside me. "Lisa, darling, can we talk for a moment?" I said, my voice deceptively calm. She hesitated, glancing at Mark before nodding and getting up from his lap. As she followed me into the kitchen, I could feel the storm brewing inside me. This was just the beginning. They had no idea what was coming. The game had just started, and I was going to make sure they both paid dearly for their betrayal. After leading Lisa into the kitchen, I closed the door behind us, taking a moment to steady myself. Her eyes were wide with a mix of fear and guilt. Good. She should be scared. "What the hell, Lisa?" I demanded, keeping my voice low but firm. "Do you have any idea how humiliating this is?" she stammered, trying to find the right words. I didn't mean for you to find out like this. Mark and it's just not what it looks like." I couldn't help but laugh at that. Not what it looks like, really? Because it looks like you were about to have sex with him on our couch. Her face turned red, but she didn't say anything. She knew there was no point in denying it anymore. I leaned in closer, my voice dropping to a whisper. "You know what, Lisa? You can have him, but not before I make you both regret ever crossing me." She looked at me confused. "What are you talking about?" I straightened up, giving her a cold smile. "You'll see. Now go back to your lover and tell him I'll be out for a while. Enjoy your time together while you can." She hesitated, but eventually she nodded and left the kitchen. I watched her go, the anger inside me simmering. This wasn't just about revenge. It was about making a statement. I needed to show her that betraying me was the worst mistake she ever made. I grabbed my keys and left the house, needing some time to clear my head and formulate my plan. I drove aimlessly for a while, my mind racing with ideas. Destroying her completely meant hitting her where it hurt the most: her reputation, her career, and her relationship with Mark. First, I needed evidence. Thankfully, technology made that easy. I drove to a nearby electronics store and purchased a few discrete cameras and audio recorders. By the end of the day, I had set up surveillance in the living room, bedroom, and even in her car. If she thought she could continue this affair behind my back, she was in for a rude awakening. Over the next few days, I collected as much evidence as I could. It didn't take long for them to slip up, their arrogance making them careless. Every heated whisper, every stolen kiss, and every intimate encounter was captured and stored, ready to be used against them. With the evidence in hand, I started my attack. I sent anonymous emails to Lisa S. and Mark S. workplaces, complete with videos and audio recordings. I knew that Lisa S. company had a strict no fraternization policy, and Mark S. job as a senior manager was at risk. It wasn't long before they were both called into HR for a discussion. Watching Lisa come home in tears after being suspended from work was immensely satisfying. I played the supportive husband, consoling her while secretly relishing her misery. Mark, on the other hand, was fired on the spot. His shocked expression when he saw me waiting outside his office was priceless. "What did you do?" He spat, his face red with anger. I shrugged, feigning innocence. "I have no idea what you're talking about. Maybe you should ask your girlfriend." He lunged at me, but I easily sidestepped him. "This isn't tea over," he growled, storming off. But it was over, for them at least. I had more in store, and I was just getting started. Next, I turned my attention to their personal lives. I knew that Lisa S. family was very traditional, and they would be horrified to learn about her affair. I sent copies of the evidence to her parents, her siblings, and even her closest friends. The fallout was immediate. Lisa was ostracized, her parents refusing to speak to her and her friends cutting all ties. Mark faced similar repercussions, his fiancée breaking off their engagement and his social circle abandoning him. They were both alone, jobless, and with ruined reputations. The final part of my plan was the most satisfying. I served Lisa with divorce papers, citing adultery as the reason. Our state had some pretty harsh penalties for infidelity, and she stood to lose everything: the house, the car, and even her savings. She would be left with nothing. When she received the papers, she broke down completely. "Please, don't do this," she begged, tears streaming down her face. "We can fix this. I love you." I looked at her, my heart hardened. "You should have thought about that before you decided to cheat. Goodbye, Lisa." As I walked out of the house for the last time, I felt a sense of closure. They had betrayed me, and I had destroyed them completely. Now, it was time to move on and rebuild my life, free from the chains of their treachery. Leaving Lisa in tears was a moment I'd relive in my mind many times. But now I had to focus on what came next. It wasn't just about getting back at them, I needed to ensure they couldn't bounce back easily. I went back to my new apartment, the place I had leased just a week before. I didn't tell Lisa about it, of course. It was a modest one-bedroom, but it was my sanctuary, away from the memories, the betrayal, and everything that reminded me of the life I had with her. A few days later, I got a call from Lisa S. lawyer. He wanted to discuss the terms of the divorce. I agreed to meet him, knowing full well I had the upper hand. The meeting was scheduled for the following week. In the meantime, I continued to gather more information. I reached out to Mark S. fiancée, Jenna. She was devastated when I told her about the affair, but she deserved to know the truth. We met for coffee, and she poured her heart out, telling me how Mark had always been distant and secretive. I shared the recordings with her, and she broke down in tears. "I can't believe I didn't see it," Jenna sobbed. "Thank you for telling me. I needed to know." Her gratitude gave me a strange sense of satisfaction. She didn't deserve to be kept in the dark, and now she could move on with her life just like I was trying to do with mine. The day of the meeting with Lisa S. lawyer arrived. I walked into the conference room with confidence. Lisa was already there, looking fragile and worn out. Her lawyer, Mr. Davis, was a middle-aged man with a stern expression. "Mr. Edwards, thank you for coming," Mr. Davis began. "We'd like to discuss the division of assets." I leaned back in my chair, smiling slightly. "Sure, but let's be clear, I'm not willing to give up much." Lisa looked at me, her eyes pleading. "Can we talk about this? We don't have to go through lawyers. Please, let's try to work it out." I shook my head. "There's nothing to work out, Lisa. You made your choice." Mr. Davis cleared his throat. "Mr. Edwards, we are willing to negotiate. Lisa is ready to make concessions." I raised an eyebrow. Concessions? Like what? He glanced at Lisa before continuing. "She is willing to give up her claim on the house if she can keep her car and a portion of the savings." I laughed. A cold, mirthless sound. "The house was mine before we got married. She has no claim to it anyway. As for the car, she can keep it. But I want 70% of the savings, non-negotiable." Lisa S. eyes widened. 70%? That is unfair." I leaned forward, my expression hardening. You should have thought about fairness before you started sleeping with Mark. Take it or leave it. Mr. Davis sighed, clearly frustrated. We'll need some time to consider your terms. Take all the time you need, I replied, standing up. But my terms won a change. I left the room, feeling a sense of triumph. Lisa had no choice but to agree. She was in no position to fight me, and she knew it. As I walked out of the building, my phone buzzed. It was Jenna. I answered, curious about why she was calling. Hey, Tim, she said, her voice shaky. I just wanted to thank you again for everything. It's been really hard, but I'm glad I know the truth. I'm glad I could help, I replied. How are you holding up? It's been tough, she admitted. But I've decided to move back to my hometown. Start fresh. That sounds like a good idea, I said, genuinely happy for her. If you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks, Tim, and good luck with everything. You deserve to be happy. You too, Jenna. After hanging up, I felt a strange mix of emotions. On one hand, I was satisfied with how things were unfolding. On the other hand, the realization that my marriage was truly over hit me harder than I expected. But there was no turning back now. A week later, Lisa's lawyer called to accept my terms. The divorce would be finalized soon. I should have felt victorious, but instead I felt an emptiness settling in. Revenge was sweet, but it didn't fill the void left by her betrayal. I spent the next few weeks focusing on myself. I started working out more, picking up old hobbies I had neglected, and even reconnected with a few old friends. It wasn't easy, but slowly, I began to feel like myself again. Then one evening I received a call from an unknown number. I answered hesitantly, unsure of what to expect. Hello? Tim, it's Mark. His voice sent a wave of anger through me. What do you want? I just wanted to talk, he said, sounding surprisingly subdued. Can we meet? I considered hanging up, but curiosity got the better of me. Fine. Where? There's a bar downtown, O'Malley S. Meet me there in an hour? All right. I hung up, feeling a mix of anger and curiosity. What could he possibly want to say? When I arrived at the bar, Mark was already there nursing a beer. He looked haggard, like he hadn't slept in days. I sat down across from him, my expression cold. What do you want, Mark? He sighed, running a hand through his hair. I just wanted to apologize, Tim. I know I messed up. I lost my job, Jenna left me, and everyone hates me. But I deserved it. I watched him, trying to gauge his sincerity. Why should I believe you? He looked me in the eye, and for the first time I saw genuine remorse. You don't have to. But I needed to say it. I'm sorry, Tim, for everything. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to punch him, while another part wanted to accept his apology. In the end, I just nodded. All right. Apology accepted. But Don T expect us to be friends. He nodded, looking relieved. I understand, thanks, Tim. We sat in silence for a few minutes, before I got up to leave. As I walked out of the bar, I felt a strange sense of closure. It was time to move on, to put this chapter behind me, and focus on the future. I didn't know what lay ahead, but I was ready to face it head on. With the divorce finalized and Lisa out of my life, I found myself with an unexpected sense of freedom. For the first time in years, I could focus entirely on myself without the shadow of betrayal looming over me. It was liberating. I threw myself into work, taking on new projects and responsibilities. My dedication paid off, and within a few months, I received a promotion. The recognition was a much-needed boost to my self-esteem. It felt like a fresh start, a chance to rebuild my life from the ground up. One Friday evening, as I was packing up to leave the office, my colleague Sarah approached me. She was always friendly, but tonight there was a different energy about her. Hey, Tim, a few of us are going to a new bar downtown to celebrate your promotion. You should come. I hesitated. I hadn't been out much since the divorce, preferring the solitude of my apartment. But maybe it was time to change that. Sure, why not? The bar was lively, filled with laughter and music. It felt good to be surrounded by people, to feel like I was part of something again. Sarah introduced me to her friends, and we spent the evening talking and laughing. For the first time in a long time, I felt a genuine sense of happiness. As the night wore on, I found myself in a deep conversation with Sarah. She was easy to talk to, and we discovered we had a lot in common. She shared stories about her travels, and I told her about my passion for woodworking. It was refreshing to connect with someone on such a personal level. "Tim, I am glad you came out tonight," Sarah said, her eyes sparkling under the dim lights of the bar. "You seem like a really great guy." I smiled, feeling a warmth spread through me. "Thanks, Sarah. IV enjoyed tonight, too." As the bar began to close, Sarah and I exchanged numbers. We agreed to meet up again soon, and I walked home with a spring in my step. Maybe, just maybe, things were looking up. Over the next few weeks, Sarah and I spent more time together. We went hiking, tried new restaurants, and even attended a woodworking class. The more I got to know her, the more I realized how different she was from Lisa. She was kind, genuine, and had a zest for life that was infectious. One evening, we were sitting in my living room sharing a bottle of wine. The conversation flowed effortlessly, and I found myself opening up to her about my past. "I never told you this, but I was married before," I began, watching her reaction carefully. She nodded, her expression understanding. "I figured as much. You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to." "No, I want to. It's just it was a difficult time. She cheated on me, and it destroyed everything I thought I knew about love and trust." Sarah reached out, taking my hand in hers. "I am so sorry, Tim. No one deserves to go through that." Her touch was comforting, and for the first time I felt like I could let go of the past. "Thanks, Sarah. It means a lot to me." As the night wore on, I realized something important. My relationship with Lisa might have ended in betrayal, but it didn't have to define my future. With Sarah, I saw a chance for a new beginning, a fresh start filled with possibilities. We took things slow, both of us cautious from past hurts. But over time, our bond grew stronger. Sarah showed me what it meant to trust again, to open my heart without fear of being hurt. And for that, I was grateful. Months passed, and our relationship blossomed. We took trips together, spent weekends exploring new hobbies, and created a life that felt full and meaningful. I was happier than I had been in years. One sunny afternoon, Sarah and I were walking in the park hand in hand. The air was filled with the scent of blooming flowers, and the sound of children playing echoed around us. "Tim," Sarah said, stopping to face me, "I've been thinking. I know we have both been through a lot, but I want you to know how much you mean to me. I love you." Her words took my breath away. It was the first time she had said it, and I could see the sincerity in her eyes. "I love you too, Sarah," I replied, feeling my heart swell with emotion. In that moment, I knew that my journey of healing was complete. I had found someone who truly cared for me, someone who saw me for who I was and loved me despite my flaws. Lisa's betrayal was a chapter in my life, but it didn't define me. It had led me to this moment, to a love that was genuine and pure. As we continued our walk, I felt a profound sense of peace. The past was behind me, and the future looked brighter than ever. With Sarah by my side, I was ready to embrace whatever came next. Life with Sarah was everything I had hoped for and more. We settled into a comfortable rhythm, our days filled with laughter, love, and new adventures. The darkness of my past seemed like a distant memory, and I was finally at peace. But life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. One evening, after a particularly long day at work, I came home to find Sarah sitting on the couch, her face pale and troubled. She had a piece of paper in her hand, and as I approached, she looked up at me with eyes filled with worry. "Tim, we need to talk," she said, her voice shaky. My heart skipped a beat. "What is wrong?" She handed me the paper, and as I read it, my blood ran cold. It was a letter from a lawyer representing Lisa. She was contesting the divorce settlement, claiming that she had been coerced into agreeing to the terms and that she deserved a larger portion of the assets. "This can't be happening," I muttered, anger bubbling up inside me. "She's trying to take everything after all we've been through." Sarah put a comforting hand on my arm. "We'll fight this, Tim. You have every right to what's yours." But the days that followed were filled with anxiety and frustration. Lisa's sudden move threw my life into chaos once again. I had to hire a lawyer, gather documents, and prepare for another legal battle. It felt like a never-ending nightmare. One evening as I sat at my desk, drowning in paperwork, Sarah came in with 2 cups of coffee. She set one down in front of me and placed a reassuring hand on my shoulder. "We'll get through this," she said softly. "You are not alone." I looked up at her, gratitude washing over me. "Thanks, Sarah. I don't know what I'd do without you." She smiled, but there was a hint of worry in her eyes. "Just promise me one thing, Tim." "Anything," I replied. "Promise me that no matter what happens, we'll face it together." I nodded, taking her hand in mine. "I promise." As the weeks passed, the legal battle with Lisa intensified. She was relentless, and her claims grew more outrageous by the day. She alleged that I had hidden assets, that I had manipulated her into signing the agreement, and even that I had been abusive, a blatant lie. The stress took its toll on me, and I found myself growing more irritable and distant. One night, after a particularly heated phone call with my lawyer, I snapped at Sarah for no reason. "Why can't anything just go right for once?" I yelled, immediately regretting my outburst. Sarah looked hurt but tried to stay calm. "Tim, I know this is hard, but we'll get through it. You need to stay strong." I took a deep breath, running a hand through my hair. "I'm sorry, Sarah. I didn't mean to take it out on you." She hugged me tightly. "I know, just remember, I'm here for you." Despite the challenges, we pushed forward. My lawyer was confident that Lisa S. claims wouldn't hold up in court, but the process was grueling. Each court date felt like a battle, and I dreaded facing Lisa and her smug, deceitful lawyer. Then, one morning, I received a phone call that changed everything. It was from my lawyer, and his voice was filled with urgency. "Tim, you need to come to my office immediately. We've found something that could turn this case around." I rushed to his office, my mind racing with possibilities. When I arrived, he handed me a folder filled with documents. "We discovered that Lisa has been hiding her own assets," he explained. "She's been receiving large sums of money from an undisclosed account." I stared at the documents, shock and anger coursing through me. "So she's been lying this whole time?" "Yes," he confirmed. "We can use this to our advantage. It proves that she wasn't honest about her financial situation and that her claims are baseless." With this new evidence, we went back to court with renewed confidence. Lisa S. lawyer tried to argue against it, but the evidence was damning. The judge saw through her lies and ruled in my favor, upholding the original settlement terms. When the verdict was announced, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. Lisa S. plans had backfired spectacularly, and she left the courtroom in disgrace. As we walked out of the courthouse, Sarah squeezed my hand, her eyes shining with relief. "We did it, Tim. It's finally over." I pulled her into a tight embrace. "Thank you, Sarah. I couldn't have done this without you." Life slowly returned to normal. The legal battle had taken its toll, but it also brought Sarah and me closer together. We learned to lean on each other, to find strength in our love and partnership. One evening, as we sat on the porch, watching the sunset, Sarah turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "You know, Tim, everything we've been through has made us stronger. I truly believe that." I nodded, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. "You're right, and I wouldn't trade what we have for anything." As the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, I found myself embracing life with a renewed sense of purpose. The past was behind me, and the future looked bright with Sarah by my side. Together, we faced whatever challenges came our way, knowing that our love was strong enough to overcome anything. And as I looked into her eyes, I knew that I had finally found my true partner, the person who would stand by me through thick and thin. Lisa S. betrayal had been a painful chapter, but it led me to this moment of happiness and fulfillment. And for that, I was eternally grateful. Life had settled into a pleasant routine with Sarah, and the dark clouds of the past seemed to have finally dissipated. We spent our days working on our individual passions and our evenings wrapped in each other's company. It felt like everything was finally as it should be. But one day, just as I thought I could fully relax, an unexpected visitor showed up at my doorstep. I opened the door to find Lisa standing there, looking tired and disheveled. "Tim, can we talk?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I felt a surge of anger and confusion. After everything she had put me through, she had the nerve to come to my home. "What do you want, Lisa?" I asked, keeping my tone as neutral as possible. She looked down, unable to meet my gaze. I know I don't deserve your time, but I need to explain. I sighed, debating whether to slam the door in her face or hear her out. Curiosity got the better of me. Fine, come in, but make it quick. We sat down in the living room, the silence between us heavy and awkward. She took a deep breath and began. I have lost everything, Tim, she said, her voice trembling. My job, my friends, even my family want to speak to me. I've had a lot of time to think about what I did, and I realize how badly I messed up. I'm not here to ask for forgiveness, but I needed you to know that I am truly sorry. I watched her carefully, looking for any signs of manipulation, but she seemed genuinely remorseful. Why now, Lisa? Why come to me after all this time? She wiped a tear from her cheek. Because I've hit rock bottom, and I needed to tell you the truth. I was so blinded by my own selfishness and desires that I didn't see how much I was hurting you. Losing everything made me realize how important you were to me. Her words stirred a mix of emotions within me, anger, sadness, but also a strange sense of closure. Lisa, I appreciate your apology, but it doesn't change what happened. We are done, and I've moved on. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I understand. I just needed you to know. I am leaving town, starting fresh somewhere new. I hope you find happiness, Tim. You deserve it. With that, she stood up and walked out of my life for what I hoped would be the last time. I watched her go, feeling a sense of finality. It was over. Truly over. When Sarah came home that evening, I told her about Lisa S.'s visit. She listened quietly, then hugged me tightly. You did the right thing, Tim. I am proud of you. Her words reassured me, and I knew that my future was with her, not haunted by the past. The days turned into weeks, and life continued to move forward. Sarah and I grew even closer, our bond strengthening with each passing day. We decided to take a trip together, a much-needed vacation to escape the stresses of everyday life. We chose a quiet beach town, far away from the hustle and bustle of the city. It was the perfect place to relax and recharge. We spent our days lounging on the beach, exploring local shops, and enjoying the simple pleasures of life. One evening, as we watched the sun set over the ocean, Sarah turned to me with a serious expression. Tim, I've been thinking a lot about our future. I love you more than anything, and I can't imagine my life without you. I took her hand in mine, my heart pounding. I feel the same way, Sarah. She smiled, her eyes shining with emotion. Then let us make it official. Let us build our future together, no more looking back. Tears filled my eyes as I pulled her into a tight embrace. Yes, Sarah, let us do it. Our vacation became a celebration of our love and commitment. We talked about our dreams, our plans, and how we wanted to grow together. It was a magical time, one that solidified our bond even further. When we returned home, we set about making our plans a reality. We started by moving in together, creating a space that was truly ours. We decorated the apartment with a mix of our styles, turning it into a cozy haven filled with love and laughter. Sarah encouraged me to pursue my passion for woodworking more seriously. With her support, I converted the spare room into a workshop and started taking on small projects. It was therapeutic, a way to channel my creativity and focus on something positive. One weekend, while working on a custom piece for a client, Sarah walked in with a look of excitement on her face. Tim, I have some news. I've been promoted at work. I put down my tools and hugged her tightly. That's amazing, Sarah. You deserve it. She grinned, her eyes sparkling. Thank you. I couldn't have done it without your support. Life was good, better than I had ever imagined. We were building something beautiful together, and it felt like the universe was finally aligning in our favor. Just when I thought life couldn't get any better, an unexpected reminder of the past threatened to shatter our happiness. One day, while sorting through the mail, I found a letter addressed to me with no return address. Curious, I opened it and felt my heart drop as I read the contents. It was from Mark. Tim, I know you don't want to hear from me, but I need to get this off my chest. I've been thinking a lot about everything that happened, and I realize how much I ruined not only your life, but mine as well. I've been going through therapy and trying to make sense of my actions. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I needed to tell you that I am truly sorry. I am leaving the city, starting over somewhere far away. I wish you the best, Tim. You deserve happiness. Mark. I stared at the letter, a mix of anger and frustration bubbling up inside me. Why now? Why did he feel the need to reach out and stir up old wounds? When Sarah came home that evening, I showed her the letter. She read it quietly, then looked up at me with concern. How do you feel about this? I sighed, running a hand through my hair. I don't know. Part of me wants to just forget about it, but another part is angry that he's trying to reach out after everything. She hugged me tightly. It is okay to feel that way, Tim. You've been through a lot. Just remember that you're not alone in this. Her support meant everything to me, and together, we decided to let the past remain in the past. Mark S. letter was a reminder of a chapter that was closed, and we were focused on the future. With the past firmly behind us, Sarah and I continued to build our life together. We planned a small, intimate wedding, surrounded by close friends and family. It was a beautiful day filled with love and joy, and as we exchanged vows, I knew that this was where I was meant to be. We spent our honeymoon in Italy, exploring the beautiful countryside, savoring delicious food, and creating memories that would last a lifetime. It was a dream come true, and I felt incredibly grateful for the second chance at happiness. When we returned home, we started talking about the future in earnest. We both wanted children and began making plans to expand our family. It was an exciting time, filled with hope and anticipation. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, Sarah turned to me with a thoughtful expression. Tim, I have been thinking about something. I looked at her, curiosity piqued. What is it? She smiled, taking my hand in hers. I want to start a charity, something that helps people who've gone through similar experiences as us. A place where they can find support and rebuild their lives. Her idea touched me deeply. That's an amazing idea, Sarah. I am with you all the way. Together, we began working on the foundation for the charity, reaching out to friends, colleagues, and professionals who could help us make it a reality. It was a labor of love, a way to give back and help others find hope and healing. As the years passed, our lives continued to evolve and grow. Our charity became a beacon of hope for many, and we found immense satisfaction in helping others. We welcomed 2 beautiful children into our lives, a boy and a girl, who filled our home with laughter and joy. Raising our family. Our children, James and Emily, were the light of our lives. James with his boundless energy and infectious laughter, and Emily, with her curious nature and kind heart, brought new meaning to our days. Sarah and I cherished every moment, from their first steps to their first days of school. We made it a priority to be present in their lives, attending school events, coaching their sports teams, and encouraging their passions. Sarah's promotion allowed her more flexibility, and my woodworking business flourished, giving us both the time and resources to be there for our kids. The Charity's impact. Our charity, New Beginnings, grew beyond our wildest dreams. We provided support groups, counseling services, and resources for those recovering from betrayal and rebuilding their lives. Seeing the positive impact we had on so many people was incredibly rewarding. We hosted annual fundraisers and community events where people shared their stories of resilience and hope. Each success story reminded us why we started this journey. It was more than just a charity. It was a community of people helping each other heal and move forward. Strengthening our bond. Sarah and I remained partners in every sense of the word. We supported each other through the ups and downs, always communicating openly and honestly. Our love grew stronger with each passing day, and we never took for granted the second chance we had been given. We made time for just the 2 of us, whether it was a quiet dinner after the kids were asleep or a weekend getaway. These moments kept our connection strong and reminded us of the love that had brought us together. Reflecting on the past. One evening, as we sat on the porch, now a favorite spot for us, I looked at Sarah and felt a surge of gratitude. I love you, Sarah. Thank you for being my rock, my partner, and my best friend." She smiled, her eyes shining with love. "I love you too, Tim. Here's to many more years of happiness together." Looking forward. As the sun set, casting a warm glow over our home, I knew that the future was bright. With Sarah by my side, I was ready to face whatever challenges came our way, knowing that our love and partnership would carry us through. We talked about our dreams for the future, the places we wanted to travel, the experiences we wanted to share with our children, and the ways we hoped to grow our charity even further. Each dream felt within reach, grounded in the strength of our love and the life we had built together. A life of fulfillment. Life had thrown its worst at us, but we had come out stronger, wiser, and more united. The future beckoned, full of promise and possibility, and I couldn't wait to see what it held for us. We had turned the pain of the past into a foundation for a beautiful life, one filled with love, laughter, and a commitment to making the world a better place. Gratitude and hope. Sitting on that porch, watching our children play in the yard, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. We had faced incredible challenges and emerged not just unscathed, but thriving. Sarah and I had built a life together that was richer and more meaningful than I had ever imagined. The future was a canvas, waiting to be painted with new adventures and cherished memories. With Sarah and our children by my side, I was ready to embrace it all, confident that no matter what came our way, we would face it together, stronger than ever before.